Canon Films in the 80s were notorious for making a lot of low-budget action films and some horror movies. We're going to talk about one of those action pictures right now. Let's do it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a Canon Films production, and that film is Invasion USA. Yes, this was Chuck Norris's second collaboration with Joseph Zito as a director. Joseph Zito, to start off his career, had done The Prowler with Tom Savini, with all those great makeup effects in that film, and he went on to do Friday the 13th Part 4. Well, a year before this film, they made Missing in Action came out, and they worked together on that, and it was a huge hit for Canon Pictures. So Canon Pictures signed Chuck Norris to a 6-picture deal, and this was the first film in that 6-picture contract. And he brought Joseph Zito in to direct this film since they enjoyed working together on Missing in Action. Now, for this film came out in 1885. It's rated R. It's an hour and 47 minutes long. And for a Canon Pictures, this film had a decent budget of $10 to $12 million. That's more than what they usually gave for a film like this. And when it was released that year, it made $17.5 million. And for Canon Pictures, that was a nice gross. And plus, Canon Pictures used to make a lot of money pre-selling their titles overseas. And these R-rated action pictures used to sell really well pre-sold overseas. So they were probably already ahead by the time this movie hit the theaters. Now, in this film, we have Chuck Norris as Matt Hunter. He's ex-Special Forces guy. We've seen him being in the film. He's retired. He's living in the swamps in the Everglades, living a peaceful life off the grid, helping his friend wrangle alligators. We have Richard Lynch as Rostov. He's like this Russian commander, and he is in command of this group of men. It's like an offset of Russian military and Cuban military that's going to invade the USA and cause absolute chaos across the country in cities. And we also got Billy Drago as Mickey. Now, I only mention Billy Drago because he always makes an impression on screen. He's only in this film for maybe 2 minutes, but he's always impressionable when he's on screen. And Billy Drago played a lot of bad guys in the 80s in action pictures. He was in the Hills Have Eyes remake. He played one of the mutants. And he also went on to be co-star with Chuck Norris in Delta Force 2. He played the Colombian drug dealer that Chuck Norris goes after. The basic premise of this film is these offshoots of the Soviet military and Cuban military. This is definitely Cold War era stuff here. And their thinking when making this film was, what if somebody invaded the USA in modern times, which was the 80s? And so they came up with this idea of these factions from Russia military and Cuban military coming into the USA and causing chaos across the country. Basically, these men's goal are to cause enough chaos to sow just distrust with the American people and the government, turn people against people, and force the government to cut back on our constitutional freedoms, instill martial law, and just basically cause absolute panic with people. And we do see that during this film. Now, in the beginning of this film, we are introduced to Rostov and this other general, and they're planning their siege on the USA. But we're also introduced to Hunter. He's living in the swamp, as I said, in the Everglades, and he's helping his friend, this old man, wrangle alligators. And he gets approached by the agency about coming back. They said Rostov's in the country. And we come to find out that Hunter had already brought in Rostov once before. Matter of fact, Rostov is so obsessed with Hunter, he still dreams about that night when Hunter stopped him from blowing up this affair overseas with these leaders. And Hunter brought him in. And Hunter's saying to Rostov is, "It's time to die." And it comes up many times during this film. Hunter repeats that line to Rostov, or for somebody to tell Rostov it's time to die. And Hunter turns him down. He goes, "Look, I should have killed him when I had the chance. I turned him over. He's out. He's your problem now." Hunter doesn't want anything to do with it. Well, Rostov is still dreaming about Hunter, as I said, and he is obsessed. And he said, "We cannot go forward with this operation without killing Hunter." And the other general's like, "It's one man. He can't do nothing. He can't hurt us. Leave it be." But Rostov is so obsessed, he goes into the swamp, kills the old man, blows up Hunter's house. Now, you would think somebody who's so obsessed about Hunter, he would have checked to make sure he was dead. They do not. They blow up the thing, shoot it up, and they turn around their airboats and take off. Well, Hunter's still alive, and now he's pissed. He contacts the agency, says he's in. He works alone. He'll contact them if he needs anything. Now, the terrorist attacks start in the USA. We see this one scene, which I think is the most effective scene in the whole film. And there's this residential neighborhood, like suburban neighborhood. And they actually filmed this outside of Atlanta, not in Florida. This section of it. In a real residential neighborhood. they got permission to blow up those houses for real. There's a scene where Rostov and the other general pull up in his pickup truck. They hop in the back and they have a rocket launcher and they start blowing up houses. Now, these houses are filled with families. It's in the evening. It's Christmas time. You see a family decorating for Christmas outside, kids playing in the street with their football. It's just a very atypical American neighborhood. And they start blowing up. They blow up like 5 or 6 houses. And it's a very effective scene to show what these men are willing to do to cause absolute panic and chaos across the country. Well, that neighborhood was slated for demolition outside of Atlanta because they were going to expand the runway at the local airport. So the filmmakers got permission to dress the houses and blow them up for real. I thought that was pretty cool. And basically, once Hunter's activated, he goes and stops terrorist attack after terrorist attack. There's a scene in a mall where he stops a massive terrorist attack there. He stops them. Now, for some reason, the parents are sending their kids out of town on a school bus, unsupervised, because they think it's safer. Well, the terrorists target that bus in the freeway. They put some plastic explosives on the side, but Hunter foils that as well, and several others. They're going to blow up a church. He foils that. We get to the point where Hunter meets the one guy who contacted him earlier about Rostov at this fair, and we see this burnt-out ride for small children. And Hunter's pissed. He's like, for every one I stop, 15 happen. He goes, I'm not making much of a difference here. We got to put an end to this now. And he gives the guy what he wants to do, which basically what he wants to do is have them arrest him on TV, make a big public publicity thing out of it so Rostov knows. Show where you're taking him, and they make up this story about all 50 governors are convening on this building, along with military leaders, decide what they're going to do, and they show Hunter being arrested and taken to this building. Well, now Rostov feels like if they could pull this off, they will really push the U.S. over the edge. So he collects all of his men, and they make a siege on this building in downtown. Well, it's a trap, obviously. They go in, and nobody's in there. And the army comes in behind them and traps them in there. And Hunter's in the building, and he takes out all of Rostov's men that's with him while those other men go outside try to fight off the army, which they don't do. And we have our final battle between Rostov and Hunter. Hunter kicks his ass and then blows him up with a bazooka, and that's the end of Invasion USA. Now, I'll give Joseph Zito credit. He does film some of the action very nicely. Now, there was more to this film. There was more backstory, more character stuff. Canon Films cut most of that out and concentrated mostly on the action. Now, there is some time. They do take their time to set up everything, but then it's mostly action set piece after action set piece, which was what Canon Pictures were known for anyway. That's what made them money. That's how they pre-sold a lot of these pictures. I always liked this film, though. Like I said, when I was a young man, I used to rent this at least twice a year from Broad Street Video in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania. I was obsessed with this film. I love the concept of it. As a matter of fact, I think this film would make an excellent remake with a bigger budget and a cool action star or somebody that you can believe doing this stuff. I think it would make for a great remake, honestly, with a good director. I think you could really do something with this one. I would be up for a remake of this film for sure. But this was a very... I still enjoy this film. There's a lot of problems with it. There's some things that don't make sense, but overall, I still enjoy this film. Up until 2007, a little trivia here, this was MGM Studios' second most selling home video behind Gone with the Wind. I thought that was insane when I read that. I'm like, oh my God, what are the odds of that? Whoopi Goldberg, there's a female reporter in this film that I didn't talk about, and she's like a freelance reporter. Chuck Norris had a relationship with Whoopi Goldberg. They were friends or knew each other, and he thought he wanted her for that role, and he lobbied for it, but Joseph Zito didn't want her, didn't think she was right, and so they hired somebody else. Now, for some of the makeup effects in this film, Joseph Zito had worked with Tom Savini on The Prowler and Friday the 13th Part 4. He asked Tom Savini to come in and do some makeup effects for him, so Tom Savini did work on Invasion USA. Now, what would I rate this film? I would rate this film a 6.5 out of 10. I still enjoy it. I pull it out from time to time to watch it. It's not perfect. There's some problems. I like Chuck Norris as an action star. I mean, Chuck Norris in real life is a legitimate badass. He's an accomplished martial artist. He's big on guns. So you know he can do a lot of stuff. He did a lot of his own stunt work in this film. You know, Chuck Norris films, he usually typically doesn't say too much. He delivers his lines. And he just, more with his eyes and his looks than anything. He doesn't really say a whole lot. But I like this film. I think Joseph Zito does a decent job with it, but a 6.5 out of 10 for me for Invasion USA. What are your thoughts on this film? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to review Fat Man. I was going to do Missing in Action for Wednesday or Thursday. I might release that Thanksgiving. But I'm going to do Fat Man. It just came out on iTunes today. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to watch it tonight. I'm super excited to watch that film with Mel Gibson and Walton Goggins. I'll have that review out by Thursday or Friday. And other than that, I hope everyone's doing well out there. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving. And I'll be back later in the week with a Fat Man review. See you later.